All right, welcome to this week's edition of Office Hours with Brandon and
Mhm.
Ashley. Here to answer your social media questions and make sure that you have all the answers that you need, and make sure that you're not confused or that nothing's like confusing you on social media. So um,
Absolutely.
let's actually start by talking about like what we do, not
Yeah.
just at Social Coach, but also like individually, because you and I both manage our different social profiles, and I
Mhm.
think we've both referenced them in when we do like our boot camp, or when we talk about on webinars or in personal stuff. We talk about our own socials. So why don't you talk a little bit about what it is that you have been doing on social media, from a personal standpoint, to kind of like what are you talking about on social?
Oh, you're giving me a chance to hype up my Bookstagram?
Yeah, go,
Well,
go.
no, no, no. Basically, I think it's fun because we take different stances. So you do the movie side of things, which I'm sure you'll talk about shortly. But my Bookstagram, I started over the pandemic, over COVID. And it's because I've been an avid reader my whole life. So I wanted to just post reviews of the books I was reading for a way for me personally to keep track. But what's really cool about it is I think what I discovered is there's a whole community of people on Instagram called, Bookstagram is this little community that they've named themselves. And it's full of people who just love talking about books, posting about books, reading. And it's kind of what led to Book Talk on TikTok. There's like a whole section also on TikTok of people who read books and talk about them and share about them.
Mhm.
So personally, I use it more as like a personal diary page, to be honest. Like I post my reviews and I mainly engage with people through comments and stories. But what's
Mhm.
really cool to see is how many people can prioritize growth and grow to 30,000, 100,000 followers, but then also how my smaller community can really just be a very tight knit group of people who just constantly are commenting and reacting and sharing stories back and forth. So to me, it just speaks to the fact that you don't have to have thousands of followers to have an impact. I have people that I comment on their posts almost every day, and vice versa. Like when I'm online and engaging, we're all hyper engaged. So I think it's a little different from the way you approach it because it's more of a for fun, personal. I'm not looking to grow and to blow up and be huge. It's more of just something that I use for fun as an outlet, but I can still have a very strong community there of people that I talk to and have talked to since 2020, where we all recognize each other's handles and we chat and swap book recommendations and talk about all the updates and that sort of thing. So that's why I'm on my personal, and I find it really fun.
Yeah, so for me, I started, my TikTok account. I've got TikTok and Instagram, but I probably prioritize TikTok the most. I started that when earlier this year. I felt like we were telling people to, you know, start posting on social media, start doing all these things, and I was like, "Well, I'm not doing that." So I started earlier this year to post on social media, to stay consistent, to see how I could personally grow. Um And, I remember earlier in the year, like, Ben was, like, putting out challenges. People were putting out challenges saying, like, "Oh, post every day in the month of February," or whatever, and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna try that." Like, I'm just gonna try that and see what happens. So I posted, I think, like, 18 times or something in
18
February,
times.
and it like, I got a little bit of engagement, but the biggest thing that that first month of February did is you can see, like, if you go back and watch my content, the beginning of February versus the end of February, night and day. And it was
Mm,
just 18 videos under my belt completely changed my ability to, um, understand what people were interested in, what looked good. I changed where I was filming in my office. I was changing how I was filming. You could see my hooks change, and it was all just, okay, I posted this today. Oh, this one got more views. I think people liked this aspect. Let me try that tomorrow. Oh, people still like that. Okay, I'm going to keep this is going. I'm going to continue doing this.
mhm.
That's the value of that consistent posting. Doesn't have to be every day, but in that case for February, that really changed my view on how this works, the value of this and consistency. And then it turned into like, okay, I'm actually like having fun posting about this because I've never really been like a um like let me just post on social media all the time all the time person. I'm someone who like would post occasionally, but mainly I was a lurker. I was, someone who
Mhm.
would like be constantly like just consuming it, but not like trying to create my own stuff. So starting to create my own things helped me realize, oh, this is so much easier than I thought. And once I got those first videos out, I really started catching my stride. Now I'm at 45,000 followers that I've accrued
Amazing.
over the course of the year. And it's just been consistency. I haven't like tried to do anything crazy. I haven't like gone to buy followers. It's just learning, like and trying out different things. Some of it was looking at other larger creators. What are they doing that seems to be working? Let me try some of those things out, whether it be format or topics or hooks or anything like that. And then some things was just like asking yourself, if I just put myself in the audience's position, what is something that they would be looking for? And I think that that applies to mortgage content and real
Mhm.
estate content. Like, I think it applies just about everywhere. Like, again, for me, I create movie content. I talk about movies. And I thought, if I'm someone who is not familiar, or is not as clued in to film, what would I be? What would I be interested in?
Mhm.
And I was like, people are probably looking for. People want recommendations. They want to find new things to watch that they'll like, and people have streaming services. And so like I started this series where every Friday I recommend 5 movies on streaming, and those do
Mhm.
really really well for me. And that's where I've built my biggest following, is from every week, every Friday. My audience knows they can come and get 5 recommendations for each of their streaming platforms. And I think that that carries over, that mortgage content creators can be doing those exact same things.
Mhm. I think you've brought up so many good points in there that I'm like, "Oh, yeah." I think the main difference is when we're talking about our personal things, books and movies are things that people go seek out for entertainment outside of work and whatever's going on, right? So that's, I think, sometimes an easier sell than mortgage content because you're sitting there and it's more of a financial education. It's more of a, "Oh, this is something I should do, but it's maybe a small portion of time in my life," and it's not like, "Oh, what movie am I gonna watch this week?"
Mhm,
It's a lot bigger than that. But I think what you're hitting on is if you can find ways to make it interesting and make it relevant consistently, that is where you're going to capture more of your audience. So, kind of, we talk about content series a lot, right? Giving people structure so they know why should they come look at your profile every day or every week. And honestly, for mortgage professionals, it may not need to be every day. That might be overkill. But if once a week they can come on Monday and you can do a market update, or if once a week on Friday they know that you're going to be giving a finance tip, like, if you can give them parameters for, "Hey, this is useful to you. Tune in at this time every day," or, I'm gonna post the same type of video every week, that can help build a more loyal following. And then if in between there, you can do what you're saying and say, what is it that they would want? What is it that my audience needs to know or wants to know or doesn't know that they should know? And how can I present that in an easy, entertaining way that doesn't feel too salesy, it doesn't feel boring, but it's kind of this like, "Hey, if you didn't know this, you should be saving money on your mortgage by using this hack." Or, "Hey, you know,
mhm.
every month let me give you a quick tip on how you should be paying off your mortgage, or how you should be preparing if, like, okay, you want to buy a home by next year, January, February, March, here's everything you should be hitting by the end of the year to buy in 2026," or whatever it is. Creating those series and speaking to your audience in a way that speaks to what they actually want, not just, "Here's everything I think you should know about mortgages," right? It's
Mhm,
And I think the biggest thing I was thinking as you were saying that is, you were saying, like, they don't know as much as you do, about movies, right? So your audience is like, "I just want an easy recommendation. If I don't know anything about movies, don't be sitting here talking to me about M. Night Shyamalan and, dissecting his latest film because I'm not gonna know what you're talking about." So for a mortgage, for a complicated topic like mortgage, I think that's a great approach, is saying, what's a quick, easy tip or quick, easy segment that I can give people that doesn't mean you have to follow me or doesn't mean you have to know all this stuff about the market and about mortgages. If I can make this digestible and interesting, it's going to feel accessible. And then maybe they'll come back of their own accord and say, oh, okay, you gave me that really easy credit card tip that I could use to pay that off quicker. What else do you have for me? And then
Yeah.
that's how you get people in to grow.
Just kind of backing up really quickly, I guess, to kind of like reposition the conversation that we're having, because we've got a couple
Hmm.
people who are kind of been funneling in. I've got a couple questions here. Just to kind of explain kind of what we're talking about right now. We started talking about the individual kind of content creation that Ashley and I do on the side outside of Social Coach. Has nothing to do with mortgages. Ashley creates content around books. I create content around movies. And we were saying, how can those ideas and the ways and the strategies and tactics that we use in those kind of circles, how can those be applied here? In my case, I uh, again, to kind of back up, what I had said was, I, as a movie content creator, was asking myself, what is something that the average person, to get the most amount of people to see this and get some use out of this, what is something that the average person would be looking for from a movie TikTok account? And for me, it was, what are the movies that are on my streaming services right now that are worth a watch? That's what the average person's really looking for.
Hmm.
Um, and if we take that idea and put it in the mortgage space, the same question is something that you should be asking yourself. What is the average person? Maybe someone who's not looking to buy a home right now. Maybe not someone who's, trying to, get a loan, but what is the average person looking at right now financially, or who's trying to find ways to prepare to buy a home? And when you find those kind of this like somewhat nebulous idea of the average person, you say, okay, what content can I create now that would that would offer value to that average person?
Hmm.
A lot of the mortgage content that we see is really kind of like directed towards someone who's like in the process, and that stuff is great. Um, but sometimes you just need to go higher level than that. Sometimes you need to
Hmm.
go to the very beginning of, what are the things that you should be thinking about if you're not looking at buying a home right now? What should you be doing right now so that you are ready to buy a home 5 years from now, 10 years from now? That's a good content idea that the average person might say, you know what? I'm not looking to buy a home right now, but in 5 years, I'd like to be. I'm going to save this video. I'm going to share this video with my partner or whatever.
Hmm. I think that's huge, because I think when you're focusing too hard on one, you either need to really niche down, right? If you're really niching down, you're going to find your niche, and if you can be the big fish in a small pond, that's going to work really well. But for everyone else, I think mortgage is unique because it is a brief point in people's lives, and it's sometimes more than once, right? Like sometimes you buy a home once in your life, sometimes you buy and sell, but it is a specific time. And so if you're only targeting people in that specific period of their lives where they're already looking for that, you're limiting your scope. Whereas what I would advise is try to be nurturing everyone, right? A lot of people want to own a home, but they feel like it's out of reach. They feel like it's not affordable. They don't really know where to get started. They don't know when they should be reaching out. They don't know what milestone means. Am I ready? Like, do I need to have a certain amount saved? Like, it feels like a nebulous process. So if you can be the person, like you're saying, who's creating accessible content that's saying, hey, here's just some generic finance tips. Here's some end of the year tips you should know, because it's November, we're about to hit December, holiday spending creeps up. Here's some budgeting tips. If you're trying to save for a home, here's tips for that. If not, just here's holiday budgeting tips in general, because like it gets crazy. If you're appealing to more people as just a resource, they're going to look to you, and they're going to get in the habit of looking to you for guidance on most things, not just, hey, I have a question about a mortgage, but hey, I have a question about the market, or oh, hey, you know, can I ask you about this real estate agent I was talking to? I'm not really sure. Or my friend had a question about rates and refinancing, and I'm not really sure how to answer this. Like, it can be mortgage related, but it can also go beyond that scope depending
Hmm.
on what you're comfortable sharing. And I think too often people feel like they have to stay in this one lane, and that's not who you are as a person, right? You don't stay in one lane, but
Right.
also that's not where your audience is. Most people don't stay in one lane. Like you like movies. I watch books. I watch dance content. I want like there's a million things that we all have on our feeds that we absorb and we like to participate in. So if you can vary your content to be hyper specific and niche for those clients, those ideal clients that you really, really want, but then you can also throw that broader net to kind of say, for anyone, I just want to be helpful. I'm here to answer questions. I feel like it opens you up to nurture a lot more people to then bring them into the fold to potentially become clients.
Absolutely. And I think you should also be constantly looking at what are the current events, what are the things that other people are talking about, and how can I tie those things back into what I talk about. I do that with my stuff all the time, where it's like people are talking about this thing. I posted a video about like feel good movies, and I was
Mm,
like, it's election day. Instead of watching election coverage, maybe you just put on a feel good movie. What are the best feel good movies? Um, and I think that mortgage people could do that exact same thing. Uh, if you aren't creating a video saying, "Okay, the election's over.
mhm,
Here is the proposed policy from the winner. Let's look at it. What does this mean for homeowners?" That's like we should be seeing every single mortgage creator talking about that exact thing, like today, um, because
yeah, and
that's
about
what
renters
that's what's
too.
on. Yeah, that's on everyone's mind right now. Is anyone who's kind of in that spot of I'm renting, but I'd like to buy. That's what's on their mind is, okay, election's over. What is that going to mean for me when it comes to buying a home? That's the question that we are
Mhm,
kind of asking ourselves, like, because we're looking to buy a home soon. What does that mean for us? Also, transitioning. Let's
mhm,
talk about what the election means for TikTok. So,
oh,
um, one thing that everyone is aware of at like different levels is that the TikTok ban was passed last year, earlier this
mhm,
year, I think.
mhm.
Um and I don't know, this year feels like it was like 95 years long
I
because
know.
I
I think it
never
was like January of this year. It was very
I
early, so
think
it feels
so,
like
yeah.
it was last year, but
Um and so one of the things that I think you and I talked about this yesterday, that's kind of been on my mind, especially as someone who creates content on TikTok, is what does that mean for the TikTok ban? Will it continue? Will it end? So I've been doing some research uh, yesterday and today trying to answer that. Um, and I think here's what I think has changed. So um, Trump during his campaign did say that he wants is not as in favor of a TikTok ban. So we may see that TikTok ban drop. Now he initially did propose the TikTok ban. Um, but that was more like retribution for China, around COVID.
mm,
Um, and so now that he like used the TikTok platform to campaign and kind of promote himself, and he's set on the campaign trail that he likes the platform and he's used it to kind of engage with younger voters. I think it will be interesting to see what that means for TikTok. Like now that you have someone who's like very seemingly pro TikTok in the White House, what does that mean for the app? I've said for the longest time, we both have, don't worry about the TikTok ban right now. Just create content. Just keep going.
totally. If you're
Uh,
a creator, it won't affect you until it's too late, you know? Like it if it comes to it, okay, TikTok gets banned, it's still gonna take a while for it to happen. It's still like they can't just poof make the app disappear off people's phones. So it's
mhm.
gonna be a whole process. So in the meantime, keep pushing your content out, keep creating, keep using it because it is one of the platforms that allows for the most reach and the most like new engagement with new audiences. So take advantage of it while it's here for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it has so much value and it's such a great app. I love the app. Um, that I think the deadline is the day after the inauguration.
Mm,
Um, And so with that in mind, I don't it's also gonna go into legal battles, like, it's not just because that's the deadline does not mean that it's going to, like, disappear. So,
Right.
regardless of what this new administration ends up doing with TikTok, I do think that we are going to see TikTok survive for at least, I think, deep into next year. So
Yeah.
and the worst case scenario is that you post your content to TikTok and you got better. Like, you got
Yeah.
better at figuring it out. I got better at figuring out short form video, and those same skills that apply on TikTok apply on Instagram and apply on LinkedIn. Um, Speaking of LinkedIn, LinkedIn's been doing more is getting more and more involved in short form video, and they did
Mhm.
recently put out some guidelines around the kind of optimal ways to create content on LinkedIn with short form video. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was really interesting because they didn't necessarily share anything revolutionary, but it is fascinating to me to see how each platform has like a slightly different approach to video and how they promote different post formats. So for LinkedIn, they said the video should be over 15 seconds. So I'm like, okay, that's a really good benchmark of we've seen sometimes those short reels and short videos, people try to do like a 5 second loop because it gets you a lot of watch time. And because what that does is it means if you watch the whole video, because you are reading the text on screen and it takes you the full 5 seconds to read it, those videos sometimes get a lot of kind of, I don't even want to call it engagement because I don't think it's engagement, but it kind of messes with the metrics of it of saying, oh, people watched the whole video and they watched it multiple times. And it's like, well, that's just how long it took them to read the caption. So I think TikTok and Instagram quickly figured that out and have been shutting those down a little bit more. Every once in a while, I think I'll see one pop up where I'm like, yeah, you beat the algorithm. Good job.
Yeah.
But for the most part, above 15 seconds, I think is the best for if you're doing short videos. Do you have anything there before I keep going?
No, I think you're right. It's like, but yeah, continue.
Sorry, I wanted to make sure my internet, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't cutting you off.
No,
But yeah,
no.
so at least 15 seconds, but then they said up to 2 minutes. So our 90-second benchmark that we use as like most of your videos should be 90 seconds or less. And that's because Instagram cuts off your videos after 90 seconds. So for cross sharing across all your platforms, it's just easier if it's below 90 seconds. That means it's good to go on every platform. And that is more of an optimal video length. We see that I think 90 seconds or maybe 2 minutes and below retains about 50% of viewers. Anything longer than that, and that starts dropping off really steeply. Like that's about people's attention span. So
Mhm.
if you have a niche topic or something that you really want to go more in depth on, you can do longer videos. But I think what we always like to say is if it needs to be longer than 2 minutes, it could likely be two different videos. You could likely simplify the concept you're talking about and divide it into a part one and part two, or even part five. Like you can make these longer series, but put them in digestible chunks. And what can kind of work for you there is if you note on the video, hey, this is part one, hey, this is part two, it also makes people go, oh, wait, I'm on part four and this was interesting. Let me go back to part one. And then they have 5 videos and it's like a TV series, right? You can just
Mhm.
digest it all at once. And that's getting you and your profile more engagement, more watch time. And it helps direct people back to your older content, which especially works best, I think, on TikTok, Instagram. LinkedIn's a little harder because the feed is just built a little differently. It's harder to go to someone's profile and see all their posts. So LinkedIn series may not be as easy, but if they already exist, if you've already made them for other platforms, it doesn't hurt to share them on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. So LinkedIn said that they also they're encouraging cross posting, right? So they're saying, hey, if you make content for other platforms, bring it over here. Probably works well. The one thing I'll say is careful of watermarks. We talked about that last week, like watermarks from TikTok and CapCut on your videos. Instagram has admitted to suppressing those. If they see a watermark, they don't promote your video. I would assume that other platforms are doing the same thing. They haven't confirmed it publicly, but it's pretty
Yeah.
clear that like if there's a big TikTok logo on your video on another platform, they don't love that, so they're not going to promote it as much as a blank video that looks original.
And to,
And
I
then
guess, like, get out on that note, to kind of get out of ahead of, I know, some probable concerns that people might have is they might say, "Oh no, I've got a logo that I put on my videos. Is that gonna hurt me?" Well,
no,
actually, we just got confirmation on top of that confirmation that uh, your own logos will not hurt. What they're looking for is on Instagram, are you posting Instagram reels with the TikTok kind of like floating logo? Are you posting videos that have the watermarks from these various apps? Now, the great thing about Video Catalyst, SocialCoach Plus, is that we don't have watermarks. And the only watermark or logo that you can put on the video is your own. So in that case, you're bypassing that filtering process. So
Yeah.
that's great.
So yeah,
Uh,
logos, disclaimers, watermarks, brand stuff, none of that is what they're talking about. It's just the social media platforms being competitive, right? So
yeah.
that's the one thing is I'm careful of is when people post through TikTok, it'll automatically download a version with the watermark to your photo album. And I think what happens is it puts your raw file that you put on TikTok and then the secondary file with the watermark side by side in your photo album. So I think what happens is sometimes people go to post on Instagram right after that, and then they accidentally choose the one with the watermark, or they forgot to save the raw file, so
Mm,
that's all they have, and they share it. But then it just makes me sad because I'm like, oh no, like that's not going to get as much reach, and reach
yeah.
is different on every platform, so it's not going to be I got 1,000 views on TikTok, so I'm going to get 1,000 views on Instagram. That is not what we see ever. It's can do great on TikTok and not well on Instagram, vice versa. There's really no rules to it, but knowing that the watermark is not helping you, I think is a good tip.
Yeah.
And then the last one that LinkedIn was saying is have a longer caption, and still make your text post on the video a full post. Don't just put like a watch my video, comment below. Like you should have a full post because on LinkedIn more than any other platform, the text has more emphasis, and that is a behavior that people have been trained to do is to read those text captions. So they're seeing that videos with more more thought out and bigger captions and text posts attached to the video, those are performing a lot better. A, because it gives people something to read while the video is playing, and B, because that's already a trained behavior. And a lot of people sometimes don't even watch the video, but they'll read the text, and then that does get the post more engagement. And the comments will be talking about the caption, not the video content. So I think LinkedIn, we're just shifting that learned behavior, whereas other platforms, we're used to video, we know how to watch it and interact. LinkedIn is still more text-based, so don't skip the caption if you want your videos to get good engagement.
Yeah. Captions are, I think, people people overlook captions. And I think that one of the big reasons that they do that, I'm guilty of this, where it's like, I just spent all this time recording a video, cutting it down, getting all the text in there or whatever. And you get to the end, you go to post it and you're like, and now I have to think of a caption. All right, what do I want to say? I don't want to say something dumb. I want to make sure the caption is so valuable. People don't like
Mhm.
realize this. The difference between a good caption and a bad caption is huge. That you are in your caption, you are essentially like priming the algorithm for what it is this video is about so that it knows which kind of area of the app, what interests and what groups of people with similar interests is it putting it in front of. That is crucial.
Mhm.
So that's a combination of what you're saying in your caption, the hashtags you're using, all those things, the keywords that you're using. And I don't want to get like too deep into like SEO, obviously, but if you're talking about a specific area of Sacramento, California, and in your content, you're saying these are the home prices or whatever in Roseville, California.
Mhm.
You should say that in your caption because the more specific your caption is, the more specific your content is going to be in the direction that it goes, um, and who it goes to. You don't want all of California. You don't need all of California seeing that. You don't need all of the world seeing that one post that's designed for a specific area or talking about a specific thing. You want people that are focused on this, on the specifics to see it because they're the ones who are going to engage with it. Um, like getting a million views is great, but if no one's engaging, like well, then what are we doing? And also, you won't get to a million views if no one's engaging. So
Right, because it's all about comments and shares. So I think what I would do is with something like that, if you're looking at homes in Roseville, make sure you're using the location tag, because what that does is anyone who searches for Roseville or lives near Roseville is going to get that surface to them. So if it's hyper relevant to a specific area, that location tag is going to be really useful. And again, not just for the people who currently live there, it surfaces it up to that location. So if you go to a concert and you tag where the concert venue was, that post is going to get pushed to everyone who is similarly at that concert or lives near that venue. But if it's also, being shown to people who search for that venue a lot, like let's say people are always looking for who's coming to this venue next, who's my favorite artist, they're going to see it too, even if they don't live near the venue, because it's something that they're searching for and engaging with. So with location-based things, using the location tag on your videos and posts can be really helpful. But like you're saying, you also want to reiterate that in the caption. And the way I usually structure captions, because I think they should be longer than shorter. You can do a variety. I wouldn't make them like an essay every time, but longer gets you more opportunity for those keywords, like you're saying. So I always try to start the caption with something either like a hook or a question, because what a lot of people do is they put the call to action at the end of the post, and most people won't read the whole thing. They're not getting 3-4 paragraphs into the very bottom to see what you want them to do in the comments. So you want to start with either tell me in the comments this, or a hook of like, did you know, or are you overpaying on your mortgage? Suddenly everyone's like, I want to read this caption. Am I overpaying on my mortgage? Hello. And then you reiterate a caption again, or a question again at the end of the caption, so that those who do read the whole thing, they're more likely to engage, right? If they've stuck around through 3 paragraphs, they're probably invested. That's when you drive it home and you say, let me know in the comments what your questions are. Let me know what you're paying and what your rate is, and I'll look it up for you, or whatever your call to action is. But in the middle, you can just reiterate a lot of what your post already says, especially if it's a video. Just put some of your transcript in there, or highlight the quick 3 bullet points that you go over, whatever it is. Just reiterate some of that. I wouldn't completely regurgitate it. And I have seen people just pasting their whole video script as their caption. And I don't always know how I feel about that, because I see what they're
Don't do
doing.
that.
I'm like, you do that?
I said, don't do that.
Don't do that. I was like, do you? I was like, I haven't seen that on you.
Yeah, no.
I don't like it. I sometimes think it can work in terms of getting those keywords and getting you out. But I'm like, but if people can read your caption and that's everything you're saying exactly in the video, they'll do whatever one they can do faster, and then they'll scroll, right? Like they're going to either quickly scan the caption. Like I'm a faster reader than I am like listening to the video. So if you put your whole video script in the caption, I'm doing a quick scan to see if anything's valuable, and then I'm moving on. So that's where I would use your caption to add value and really start the conversation. Like your video is the content and your post is the content, but the caption should be the like, what do you guys think of this? Isn't this interesting?
Yeah.
Here's this hook. Here's why I'm talking about this. Tell me what you think in the comments, or let's talk about why this is relevant in the comments, or what questions do you have? That's what the caption is for. It's the content, and then the conversation is where the caption is meant to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the best way to use it. All right, well, we're coming up on time here. So I think we'll wrap up here. Thanks everyone for joining us on Office Hours. We are here every Thursday, same time, at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's what, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, 1 p.m. Eastern time. You're in Arizona, so you don't even have daylight savings time right now, right? So
yeah, well, here's the thing. The Arizona thing, wildly overrated, because you know what actually happens is everyone changes their clocks, but we don't. So I now have to, instead of just accounting for my time change, I have to account for everyone else's time change. So
right.
it's even
I've
more
noticed that with our
confusing.
meetings, it'll like move our meeting schedule sometimes, and I'm always like, oh, all of our meetings just shifted by an hour. What happened? And you're like, oh shoot, like we're diversing or getting back
because
on the
I
same
built
time.
them on the Arizona time, because that's just what it automatically does, and it's awful. So, all right, well, have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Above Mortgage, thank you for the comments, and everyone, good luck and enjoy posting to social.
Yeah, have a good rest of your week.